the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has filed applications for warrants of arrest against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. Prosecutor Karim Khan said there was sufficient evidence to lay charges against both men for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Let's speak to Gabrielle Weiniger, who covers the Israel-Gaza war for The Times. Welcome to the show, Gabrielle.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me what crimes each person is being accused of.
So like you said, this is a twofold arrest warrant, both for Israeli leaders and Hamas leaders. For Israel, it's for their part in the war in Gaza, which started on the 8th of October, which has killed over 34,000 Palestinians. And for Hamas, it's for their attack against Israeli civilians who killed, Hamas killed over 1,200 Israeli civilians. So the charges against Israel include charges against Benjamin Netanyahu, who is Israel's prime minister, and Yoav Gallant, who is Israel's defense minister. They include, quote, causing extermination, causing starvation as a method of war, including denial of humanitarian relief supplies, as well as the deliberate targeting of civilians in conflict. I think what's particularly stark there is the deliberate starvation. The arrest warrant included a comment that famine has already kicked in parts of Gaza, and that's essentially saying that Israel has purposefully starved Gazan civilians. When it comes to issuing charges, arrest warrants against Hamas, the charges have been issued against two military leaders of Hamas's military wing, which is the Al-Qassam Brigade, which is against Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Deif, as well as the chief of Hamas's political bureau, Ismail Haniyeh, who is currently residing in Qatar. And they are accused of extermination, murder, taking of hostages, rape, and sexual assault in detention. And that does include the treatment of hostages. There are currently around 128 Israeli hostages held in the Gaza Strip by Hamas. So those charges are for the massacre on October the 7th and the subsequent holding of hostages.
A charge from the International Criminal Court can be quite seriously, particularly if you're a legitimate politician like Benjamin Netanyahu, because it stops you travelling, because you are in theory under fear of arrest if you travel to a foreign country. The foreign government can be required to arrest you.
That's absolutely right. When it comes to not flying, Israel, most European countries are signatories of the ICC. So if Netanyahu was to land, if these arrest warrants are issued, which, by the way, they have to be approved first by the court's judges, if they're issued, he could be arrested in most of the European countries, not in the United States, because that's not a signatory. Then again, we have seen before in the past, arrest warrants were issued, for example, against the Sudanese leader Omar al-Bashir, and he was not arrested when he landed in South Africa, and he was left to leave the country freely. So it's not going to happen immediately, but there are a few more steps to happen before he's on the no-fly list. But it's certainly a huge blow for Benjamin Netanyahu, and it will definitely fuel more criticism of Israel's strategy in Gaza as well.
And presumably the Israeli government has come out strongly against this suggestion that an arrest warrant should be issued.
We haven't heard from Netanyahu himself, although we did hear a few weeks ago when rumours of this and when reports of this arrest warrant would first emerged. Netanyahu said he wouldn't be listening to the ICC and he wouldn't abide by its rules, and it would be abhorrent to see an arrest warrant issued against him for what he's called a defensive war. We have seen other members of Israel's cabinet, its general government coalition, as well as its war cabinet, which is consisting of three members, including Netanyahu, who's being threatened with this arrest warrant, and Defense Minister Gallant. So we've heard from Benny Gantz, who's the third member of that war cabinet. He's saying the arrest warrant has drawn parallels between the leaders of a democratic country, like you say, and Hamas, who they've called terrorist leaders of a bloodthirsty organization, and he's called this morally abhorrent and leading to moral bankruptcy. We've also heard from Bezalel Smotrich, who is a hard right minister in Israel's governing coalition. He says the decision to seek arrest warrants for Netanyahu and for Gallant is a, quote, show of hypocrisy and Jew hatred. And he said any arrest warrants against those leaders are an arrest warrant against us all. So we're certainly going to be hearing more condemnation of those arrest warrants coming out of Israel. We've also had Hamas reply, and Hamas, the Wassel Abu Yusuf, he's a member of the PLO. He's also replied to say that Palestinian people have a right to defend themselves. And the ICC is required to issue arrest warrants against Israeli officials who are pursuing the crimes of genocide, which, of course, South Africa also has brought a case to
yes,
the
I'd forgotten
International
about the
Court
South
on that.
African case as well. Gabrielle Weiniger, a Times journalist covering the Israel-Gaza war, thank you for coming on and talking to us about the news that the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has applied for a warrant of arrest against the Israeli Prime Minister and the leader of Hamas.